Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Jubilation as 104 out of 110 schoolgirls abducted from a college in Dapchi, Yobe State, regained their freedom. 5 of the students reportedly dead from trauma. Nigeria's ruling APC applauds the release of abducted Dapchi schoolgirls as PDP demands probe of circumstances surrounding abduction. House of Representatives reacts to recent killings in Kogi State, demands action from the federal government to stop the bloodbath across the country. And suspect linked to a series of deadly parcel bombs in the US city of Austin identified. And just to let you know that channelstv.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news and updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app have an eyewitness feature that you can use to share pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app and then tap and swipe to reveal the menu, and then follow the instructions. The co-convener of the Bring Back Our Girls campaign group, Dr. Ezekwesili, has described the return of the Dapchi schoolgirls as a welcome development, but she's worried about the plight of the remaining Chibok schoolgirls still in captivity. Dr. Ezekwesili says although the news of the return of the girls is comforting, the circumstances surrounding the abduction still requires proper investigation.
We are elated because we were dazed by the news of their abduction on the 19th of February. There was no way we could have been prepared for the fact that another set of girls would ever go through the kind of trauma, the kind of experience that our Chibok girls went through when they were abducted on the 14th of April 2014. 112 of our Chibok girls are still with the terrorists that abducted them. It's going to be 4 years in 3 weeks from now. And for us, what we were waiting for was news of the return of 112 girls. So you can imagine the trauma of waking up to the reality that another set of girls had been abducted. That's why this news is very welcome to us. Having said all of that, that abduction calls to question a lot of things that our federal government has been saying. For one, how could there be a successful abduction of schoolgirls a second time in an environment that is very similar to Chibok? So in the theater of war, you had a school with almost 800, if not up to 900 students who are all girls, and you left them to the vulnerability of an abduction.
Meanwhile, some parents of the abducted Chibok girls are also in Dapchi town today to welcome the 104 Dapchi schoolgirls back home and also rejoice with their parents. And they also have a message for the Boko Haram insurgents. They want them to release their daughters who've been held captive since 2014. They're also calling on the relevant authorities to intervene to secure the release of the remaining girls. The parents had arrived at Dapchi on Tuesday on a sympathy visit without knowing that the Dapchi girls would return.
The development, we cannot say anything other than to say thank you to those who have means or access to negotiate with these people. Or we can even thank the militant for releasing the girl. Because our own, remain 20 days now, they are 4 years exactly in the hand of captors. But this exactly 1 month, because this girl was adopted on 20th February and yesterday was 20th March, at just 1 month. So it is welcome. We can even thank the militant for bringing the girls back.
Not only Chibok or Dapchi, we were talking for rescue of all Nigerians who is in the hand of the captors. So we are praying to Mr. President with this effort. Nigerians will be okay. He can do whatsoever he can do and brought back all Nigerians to be in their positions.
Now, the return of the abducted schoolgirls by Boko Haram is without a doubt cheering news, but this did not come without its fair share of criticism by human rights groups, most notably Amnesty International. In this report, our correspondent Oluwa Shonibare looks at some of the issues that transpired from February the 19th.
The scenes of elation at the return of 104 students abducted on February 19th in Dapchi, Yobe State is a testament that, like success, freedom has many friends. But the journey to this point was not easy, as the battle to release the girls lasted a month. As it unfolded, the federal government received widespread criticism over what was perceived to be a lukewarm approach. Government officials took turns to assure the nation that the federal government was on top of the matter.
We have dispatched all the surveillance devices we have in terms of air, human resource intelligence, and other force that needed to be in place by all possible means, and we have made sure that all this needed is being done to see that these girls are being found out wherever they are.
But that did little to calm nerves.
We are really sad, but the cause of our religious commitment will leave everything to God Almighty. But the truth is, we are seriously hurt, and only seeing the girls will heal us.
My sister that I adopted, she is very precious and obeyed to me. After I lost her, I feel a very, very difficult condition up to now.
Another complication the military did not need was the accusation of inaction by the Amnesty International when allegedly informed of the advancement of the Boko Haram to Dapchi, a claim the military refuted flatly. Interestingly, the students were returned a day after the submission by the human rights body. So what pointers should we pick from this experience to avoid a recurrence? Is it in the manner the girls were abducted? Or is it in the sensational return where the students are reported to have been dropped at their doorsteps?
I was shedding tears a few days ago, but today I am laughing and feeling happy for the release of these girls. I was an eyewitness to all that transpired as the insurgents came to town, waving their flags and asking the youth not to run away as they are coming to Dapchi with peace and love.
Stranger also is the alleged barring of journalists from Dapchi town when this was going on. For the moment, these questions may have taken a backseat to the present feeling of euphoria which has engulfed the Dapchi community. But for those whose responsibility it is to ensure this does not happen again, they should be at the drawing board now. Oluwa Shonibare, Channels Television News.
To discuss the release of the girls and the struggle for all persons still in captivity, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by the chairperson, Bring Back Our Girls Group, Florence Ozo, and she's in Abuja. Thanks for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you, Jama, for having me.
Yeah, condolences to those who've lost their daughters, even as we celebrate those who are fortunate to be free. But what's the mood of members of your group right now that the girls are back?
Well, we are very much beyond relief. And we're excited that the parents of the Dapchi girls can, for the next few years of their lives, be able to hold their daughters back in their arms. We're so glad that this has happened exactly a month after the tragedy of the abduction, avoidable tragedy of the abduction, had taken place. So the feeling in the movement is that of gratefulness to God, that this tragedy has come to an end for the Dapchi parents, and that we are not going down the long journey as we have continued to be on the path for the Chibok girls.
But even as we celebrate those who have returned, safe, some critics say that what we should really be looking at is the fact that the abduction was successful for a second time. What lessons do you think we should learn? Are you thinking along those lines as well?
Well, I think for the federal government, the abduction should never have taken place. So I'm a bit weary where people are commending the federal government. You do not accord a man success for an avoidable tragedy. We should have learned from the 2014 abduction. Under the Jonathan administration, they failed because they did not take any action when the abduction was reported. For the Buhari administration, he has failed for even allowing it to happen. I do hope very strongly that this will be the last of such tragedies that will happen in our country, and that children can at least go to school without fear that they will be taken by terrorists.
And to the parents of the Chibok girls, because I know that your group also agitates for others who are missing in this particular insurgency. To the parents who may be watching you tonight, what message do you have for them and for the government for their girls to come home?
For the parents of the Chibok girls, I would say to them that they should keep hope alive, they should stay strong, and have faith that their children will be returned back to them. And for the federal government, we would not be overreaching our expectations if we asked the federal government to wave the same magic wand it had done in the Dapchi girls for the Chibok girls.
All right, Chairperson, Bring Back Our Girls Group, Florence Ozo, thanks a lot for joining us on the News at 10 tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And when the News at 10 returns, coalition of private sector groups seeks dialogue over the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement signed by 44 African countries except Nigeria. That will be on Business News. Stay with us.